Good evening, sports fans. This is George of Custom Tied Flies and Guide Service. And we're going to be doing a custom tied Bream Fry. It's a juvenile bream. You know, the bream usually spawn in the late spring, you know, like May, June time frame, late spring into the early summer. And then, you know, a little while later, you know, they're fry with the yolk sacs. You know, they just kind of mature, and they're pinheads, and now they're minnows. And this is this time of year here in my ponds in southern coastal North Carolina. These guys are about 2 inches long, getting ready to go into their first winter. So that's what I'm building here. The bass right now are taking advantage of the cooler weather, and they are slamming these guys on the sides of my ponds here that I currently fish. So I tied some of these up and ran them the other day, and they did very well. And so I will put the recipe for this in the description, as I have been doing with these, but I'll kind of walk you through what I'm using, when I'm using it. Excuse me. So remember to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Excuse me. And you can find me on my website at www.custom-tied.com, custom-tied.com. Have a splash, don't forget the dash. And you can also find my my Instagram page is Custom Tied Bugs, and my new Facebook commercial site is Custom Tied Bugs. That's CUSTOMTIEDBUGZ. So first things first, we're going to put a lead wire layer down. This is point. Now I'm going to have to turn the lights down here so I can see. I don't want them in my eyes, but I don't want them blinding you either. So, and let me pause here a second and see if I can get the focus a little better. Well, I guess that's about as good as it's going to get. So we're going to put a layer of Hareline lead wire, 0.020 inches. We're going to put 22 wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, and by the way, I'm using a Daiichi 1720 streamer hook for this. It's comparable to a Mustad the 9672. I like these streamer hooks. They're pretty good. They're strong. They got a good gap on them. So I'm using Danville Flymaster in a 140 denier, and this is olive. So I'm just going to get tied in here. I'm going to make a speed bump right here in front of that to keep it in place. And I'm going to run this back in non-touching loops till I get to the back of the wire. I'm going to make another speed bump right there in the back. Now that's not going anywhere. Now, I'm not going to mummify this because I'm going to cover it up with body cover. So for durability, I tie these in pieces, just like you've seen me do in the past with other bugs. I'm going to paint this with head cement. I'm going to set this off, let it dry. And then once it dries, get tied back in. I'm just going to secure that tag in down. I'm going to take some of this, this is Hareline 1/8 inch flat braid in pearl. Now, some recipes will have you tying this all together as one bug. I'm not saying that you can't do that, because of course you can, because you're the guy behind the vise, so you can do whatever the heck you want. I like doing them like this. Makes my materials go on a little better, a little evener, more even, and it also increases my durability. So I'm going to lay this body cover in. Got plenty of space for my head later. Boy, you don't see that every day. See, that brings me to a good point. How do I recover when my whip finisher goes crazy, takes on a life of its own? You just got to follow the thread, man. And now it's in the middle. Sometimes you got to break it and just start all over again. I'm going to pause this while I untangle this. I guess I am smarter than the average bear after all. You just got to look at the problem and figure it out. Okay, and then I'm just going to give this spot a little shot of cement, and it's okay to go wide as you catch the thread in this first little part of the wrapping here. That's fine. You don't want to do the whole thing. You can if you want. Whatever you do, don't try to coat it in UV resin, because you'll make it slippery, and that is bad. You don't want to make it slippery. I'll show you why here in a second. Because here comes the fun part. I'll put that away later. Okay. Now I gotta find my finesse stuff. Oh, here it is. Because I set that aside for you. So the next thing is the Chocklett Finesse chenille. And I get that from Hareline, obviously, and it's a medium size. It only comes in medium and large and extra large. So you're going to peel a few of the fibers back, just like you would on regular chenille if you're tying a woolly booger or something. So you got the little threads exposed right there. Get yourself tied in, and do it at the front. Okay. Now this time you can tie this tag, trim that tag off, or you can run it back. I'm going to run some open spirals back across this for reinforcement. All right. And I'm going to build me a little base right there at the very back. And that's where I'm going to put my Finesse chenille. Take a couple of pinch wraps right there and get it good and tied in there. And next, I have pieces of Hareline's Micro Rabbit Strips Olive variant. That's the color. And I'm going to trim these to 2 inches. I'm going to find the middle just by folding it in half. And then I'm just going to check that against my body. Now each one is just a little bit different, so you may miss a little bit and you just have to take I use a hairpin as a bodkin and just kind of pull that hair up out of the way. Make sure you got a skin tie down. You don't want to be tying on top of hair because it'll slide, it'll mess your bug up. It's all right to go a little long up front because if you have to, you can trim it. You go short, you're screwed. Okay, I'm going to take a couple turns here. In order to keep this back out of the way too, I'll just put a little spit on that. And then I can wrap these forward in open spirals. Take a couple of half hitches. Now, see, like I was saying earlier, if I did this all at the back, then I'd have to wrap by hand. I wouldn't be able to use the rotary feature of my vise. I'd have to wrap each one of these by hand. And this time, with just a little bit of extra care, you don't have to do that. But you want to place these wraps in open spirals, stroking those fibers back as you go. There we go. And then that just gets tied down. Okay. Give that a clip. You build your little thread base right here. Bring this rabbit zonker up front and just and you got your head going right there. Okay, now comes your cheeks. Here I'm using a grade 3 Metz neck in Olive Grizzly. I first started this pattern off though using a Chinese no, it wasn't Chinese, an India rooster neck. And the problem I ran into was the feathers were extremely dry and brittle. So when I started pitching them, they were breaking. So I thought, well, that's not going to work. So I switched to these. These are a lot more supple. So I'm just going to compare this to the body. You want it to be about a body length, you know, because it's a cheek. It's supposed to be accenting like the side of the fry. And then you're going to take like 3 loose wide wraps and then cinch down, hold the feather and cinch down. Take 2 tighter wraps, and that way it doesn't slip on you. Oh, excuse me. Well, that ended up being a little long, so we're going to move that because it's too long. I'm going to move it up. And then, like I said before, you're just going to pull those fibers out of the way. So you're putting thread on quill. There we go. That's better. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. All right, those are on there. They're nice and straight. You can clip those off. And just cover up those feather ends. And you're starting to work on the position and how big you want your head to be. Okay, next up is your flash. Now this is your lateral line. So just going to fold that over. Let me get rid of this box so I can see what I'm doing. I fold that over, and you're just going to trim that in half. That's why the recipe calls for half. You're going to put that aside for your next bug. And you want to find the middle. And this goes on the far side. And then this goes on the near side. Crap. Sometimes they slip and you gotta move them around. Reposition them. There we go. That's the first one of those I've had that happen on this particular fly run. Because it's not, I don't have the, yeah, that's what it is. I don't have it bound close enough to the eye for it to pull down. There we go. See what I was talking about there? So you want to take a wrap up in here or here in the middle of the head to hold the flash on the far side, but you want to make sure that you have a wrap up here right behind the eye so that you can pull it behind and have it be straight on the near side. And then you're just gonna make sure the head is the way you want it. You want to try to get up towards the back of the head before you put your whip finish on. I just ran out of thread on this one. That's pretty good timing. So just give yourself a little fiber there. All right. Don't need that. Okay, so now here, I don't want my glue point to be thread. I want it to be coated thread. All right, so I'm gonna let that sit off for a minute before we put the eyes on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're ready for eyes. So I strongly suggest some sort of super bond, whether it's super glue that you get at the Dollar Tree, Zap-A-Gap, or Gorilla with a paintbrush, something along those lines. I'm going to use Gorilla with a paintbrush. I use Zap-A-Gap on some of the other ones. I like Gorilla with a paintbrush, and I used the Zap-A-Gap because I didn't have any. I had to go to the store and buy some. I like the Gorilla with a paintbrush because I can just put it right where I want it. And there we go. So the eyes are 3D yellow 6mm eyes that I got off a guy on eBay, which I'm sure he got from China. But I'll show you what the packaging looks like. You've probably seen these on eBay yourself somewhere along the line. Now the light's keeping you from reading the damn thing. Maybe that's helpful. I don't know. Here we go. Okay, 6mm 3D eyes. Yeah, you can tell I'm a professional videographer here. So you get like I get 1,100 of them, I think, for $10. So I bought a bunch to get free shipping, but I don't think I'm gonna have to buy eyes again for another, I don't know, 10 years maybe. I mean, it's a lot of eyes. I mean, it stands to reason if it's 1,100 eyes, 2 eyes per fly, that's what, 550 flies, right? That's a lot of flies. Okay, there's that part. Now comes the next part, is the UV resin head. So there's this little gap right in here, and you're just going to fill that with UV resin. You want to fill it in layers, though. You don't want to try to spill it all in there at one time, because if you do that, it'll end up getting on the eye, and then you'll have a problem. This emitter, it's called a nightstick. I got it on Amazon. And I use rechargeable AAA batteries in it, because I go through a lot of batteries. So I figured a rechargeable is a better bet, and I was right. What's important, though, is that you get the curing frequency correct. Because if your light does not emit at the proper curing frequency, your resin will take longer to cure, or not cure at all. I do not recommend UV lights from Harbor Freight or any of the other, like Lowe's or what have you. Don't do that. Spend a little bit of extra money and get one from a shop like a Loon, or like I did. Go on eBay and look for 600 nanometers. That's on the very high end for curing, and that's what my resin company recommended. And then I started using Solar Res. and they recommended at minimum like 450 or 500. So I'm using a 600, so I'm good. And you just give that a feel, make sure it's smooth. I first started off with this resin I was getting from this Chinese guy. Got it on eBay, and I sent him a note and asked him what the best curing frequency for his UV resin was, and he was selling UV resin to like beauty shops that do manicures and stuff. Anyway, he contacted some of his shops, and they said that they had most success with this that particular resin at least 600 nanometers. So I bought a 600 nanometer emitter, and then I put it on SolarEz stuff that recommends at least 450, and I don't have no problem at all. But you do have to be careful, though. If you use too high a frequency, you could actually burn your UV resin. It'll smoke on you. I've had that happen. It won't char necessarily, but it will smoke on you, and then you don't really want to breathe in those vapors because they're very toxic. Okay, that's pretty smooth. You want to make sure that when you're using UV resin that your little nozzle on your bottle is clean. If it's got little hairs or, so on and so forth hanging off the front of it, you'll end up with bubbles. And then the bubbles won't look right when it's cured. You won't have a smooth head. So now I'm going to take I'm just going to paint over top of the eyes to seal them so they're one unit with the head, with the rest of the head. And that way, even if the water, the flies are they're on a plane in the water. That's what makes them do, what they do. And if the plane is not in your favor, make sure that's clean. And it's too big to make sure it's clean. Crap. Oh, great, my hands are cramping. Yay! There we go. Doesn't hurt to check. And there's nothing wrong with checking, Looks like I did have a little wet resin down in there. So you can kind of shade that off. You just slide a razor blade under it and pry up. You don't have to worry too much about, you're not going to cut your thread or anything. Just clean it up. There we go. Yep. Good. I'm serious, man. My hands are cramping up. I don't know why. Hey, you gotta hate that. You just want to make sure you hit all angles for about, 6 to 10 seconds. That would be my Great Dane saying hello. Grace, that's working. Okay, there you have it. As threatened, I talked about this tutorial earlier. I said I'd put it up with the recipe, so here we go. Like I said, please keep me going by like and subscribe my YouTube channel, and go take a look at my website. It's a showcase website. It's not a click and pay. You can't buy anything on the website. It's just, full of patterns. And if you want to tie one of those patterns, you just send me an email and I'll send you the recipe. I'm probably one of the worst businessmen in this industry. But thank you for sticking around, playing with us here at the Custom Tied Flies and Guide Service Virtual Guide Shop. Happy tying!